This is the agenda which we have for this webinar. In fact, this is going to be very much helpful to you if you pay close attention. Also, if you have some doubts, you can always feel free to ask your doubts as well. Okay, you can raise your hands. I'll come back to you for your doubts. So the agenda is team. This is basically where we are going to start with what is an AI risk and how this AI risk is different from the traditional risk management concepts. Okay, and we are basically going to discuss about a practical AI risk management approach. How do I basically build a step-by-step practical risk management and risk assessment in reality? I will show you some templates and examples and guided examples so that you get a clarity on how it works. Also, what are some example compliance frameworks which can help in this risk management and all? Okay. Also, if you have some queries and all, you can always ask. Okay, that's a plan. So, team, before we start this particular session, okay, so how many people here have any AI exposure to any AI tools, either personal or in your organization levels? How many people here? Okay, one, two, others. Okay, so how many people have AI tools which is used as a part of your organization? Perfect, great. One, two, three. Okay. So yeah, again, I'm getting a lot of people now, right? That means there is a lot of people are utilizing this AI tools, AI GRC, and other things in their business, right? So when talking about this particular point, okay, the first point I want to discuss is that, see, uh, before I start with the risk management and compliance and all, okay, so there is a major difference when talking about a risk. What is the definition of a risk in a simple way? A risk is an extent to which an entity is threatened by a potential circumstance. In a simple words, I can say that if I keep away this AI stuff and all, a risk is something where I am having this, entity is threatened by a potential circumstance. That's basically what we call as a risk, right? Now, as per the NIST, as per the National Institute of Standards and Technology, if you want to get an official definition for this risk management, okay, so as per this NIST, if you can say that risk is something, okay, the composite measure of an event's probability of occurring and the magnitude or degree of the consequences of the corresponding event. So what I will do is that, team, let me just give you an explanation of this first. Okay, then we'll basically come to this AI part. Okay. So this is basically the formula for normally what we measuring a risk. Risk is equal to probability of occurrence, okay, or likelihood or probability of occurrence into impact on the business. Okay. So what is this probability of occurrence or likelihood of occurrence into impact on the business, team? See, it means that let's take an example here. So let's say for example now when we talk about an example of any risk, what is the probability, what is the chance of that risk, how likely that risk is basically having a chance to occur, and what is the impact if it happens. So for example, let's say you have a server here. Okay, you have a server. Okay, what is the impact if the server get compromised? How much critical data it is containing? What is the total value of the server? So based on multiple factors, you decide the impact of the risk, right? And what is the probability that this can be compromised, or what is the probability that this impact can happen? That's what we call as a probability or likelihood. So for example, now if you take an example of two servers here, okay, if you take an example of two servers here, so this two servers contain critical data. Okay, we have a two servers which basically contains critical data. Okay, one server is connected to the internet. Okay, one server is connected to the internet, and one server is completely isolated. There is no connection to the internet. So team, what is the impact if the server number one is compromised? Is it high or low or medium? What is the impact if the server number one is compromised? So it's a high impact, right? When the server number one is compromised, the impact is high. So what is the impact if the server number two is compromised? That also contain critical data. What is the kind of impact if the server number two is compromised? Impact. If it's compromised, obviously this also contain critical data, right? So it's having a high impact. But my question is that what is the probability of compromise of the server number one, high or low or medium? It is connected to internet. What is the probability of server one to compromise? high, right? So the probability of the first server to compromise is high because it's connected to the internet. And the probability, okay, and the probability of the server number two to be compromised is low because it's not connected to internet, it's actually isolated. That means even though both servers contain the same data, okay, this is having a very high risk, and this is having a medium to low risk, right? So that means risk is something which occurs when there is an event's probability of occurring and the impact on the business. So if both the factors are there, then only the risk is realized, right? So when talking about this example of AI also, the same thing I want to tell you. See, when you talk about this AI, okay, see, I'm sure like if you I'm sure that many people here may have worked on this enterprise risk management and all. In fact, for those people this will sound very much familiar. So likelihood in impact, right, that's a standard thing. But the question is that when we basically talk about this risk assessment, my first question that many people ask me is that, Krish, we already have a risk management framework, we already have a mechanism for understanding the risk, then why we need something separate for AI? That's a very simple question, right? Why we need it separate for AI? Let me tell you. The reason is because, team, when you basically go for a AI risk management, okay, there is a lot more things, lot more challenges there. In fact, see for example, let's say if I say the challenges, like we have something like accuracy, reliability, explainability, safety, security, privacy, fairness. You have multiple challenges or multiple characteristics defined by the NIST. I will give an example, team. Uh, let's take an example. So if I basically have a normal risk, okay, if I basically have a normal risk, do we talk about fairness there? Fairness means what? Everyone should be treated equally. If you go for a normal IT system, do we have to think about this fairness? No, right? If you go for a normal software or normal infrastructure, do you have to think about the word called as explainability? What is explainability? So you should basically be able to explain, you should basically be able to explain why a something has happened or how something has happened and what is the reason why it happens. So for example, let's say now there is a loan application, or now there is a software rejecting your application. So why the software rejected your application? So these kind of things are pre-programmed in your progress software logic, and there is no need of these kind of things like explainability, fairness, and these kind of things in a normal software or normal IT architecture. But if you go for AI, this is basically something which is actually very much important. Very much means it is much more important. That means when you basically go for an AI, you have lot more challenges or lot more risk which are not pronounced or which are not practically there in the normal IT infrastructure or in the legacy architecture. That's the reason why AI risk is something which is we should be very much careful. Okay, like that. See, I will give you an example. I will give you a very common example here. So think about this. Let's say for example, I'm going for a let's say a bank loan application system, okay, a loan approval system, okay, loan approval system or AI tool, loan approval AI tool. Now what happens that, team, when we basically have a loan approval AI tool, okay, so we basically developed the tool, we tested the tool, and we deployed the tool. So at the time of development, at the time of testing, at the time of deployment, this tool is working perfectly fine, no problem. It is giving very good accuracy, it is not making any kind of unwanted or like biased changes and all. But after deployment, after 2 to 3 weeks, it start rejecting applications. It's basically discriminating people based on race, religion, gender. Possible can happen, right? See, at the time of deploying the AI tool is working perfectly fine, there is no issues, it's completely good. But after deploying, exactly within 2 to 3 weeks, it is showing signs of discrimination. It's actually showing a lot of challenges, it's actually showing a lot of like wrong decisions and all. Now how can it happen? This is not there in the legacy software, right? But why this is happening for AI? That's why it's called as an AI. Let me tell you, if you go for a legacy software, if you basically go for a normal software, you have a logic which is programmed. That means you have written the code there and it is working as per the instructions. But if you go for something called as a AI tool, it is something which is working based on what they have learned, what they have continuous learning, and what kind of a architecture they are interacting with. And that's the reason why this kind of a things happen. AI is always a live thing or a dynamic thing. It's not a static thing. AI is always a live thing. Think about this example I told you. When you basically go for something called as a when you basically go for something called as a AI system here, okay, when you basically go for something called as an AI system here, let's say if a loan approval AI tool is rejecting applications, okay, at first it's impacting a individual user, okay. After some time, similar kind of people are impacted. Similar kind of people are impacted. See, I don't want to specifically talk about that company name, but I will tell you a real use case. Okay, so there is a like what we can there is a company who basically provide the credit card and scoring system. Okay, at the same time, a celebrity husband and wife has applied for a credit card with the scoring and all. Okay, and they have realized that even though both of them had the same score, same kind of a eligibility, same everything, same kind of assets and everything, the husband is having a very high score and the wife was having a very low score. So what is the reason? They were discriminating based on gender. Okay. So maybe maximum will think, yeah, Krish, it's one case. Just one case is basically what it's discriminating. Okay, it's affecting an individual only. But tomorrow, what if more and more people are applying for this and they are getting rejected? So that issue becomes a group issue, right? Tomorrow it basically go to a community issue, right? So what will happen there? People will start complaining against your company. That affects you in a legal way, that affects you in a regulatory and compliance way, that affects you in a technical way, that affects you in terms of penalties, that affects the society, their financial stability society, that increases the discrimination, that damages your brand value, right? It is not something which just affects your company, it's affecting the entire society, right? See how the AI impact is. If you basically go for a normal architecture, it is just impacting that organization. Maximum something which can happen is a penalty or something like that if it's affecting just the company only. But this is something which is much more than that, and it's more than affecting just the company. It is affecting the people, its community, a group, a whole society as well. Okay. See, because when talking about this AI risk team, we are not only talking about the cybersecurity incidents. We are talking about the probability that an AI system may fail or behave unexpectedly or being manipulated or changing their characteristics over time, and how much impact it can cause. See, I would always say this word when talking about this AI system. This is the most important thing. How much harm it can happen. I will tell you this reason. How much harm it can happen. Okay, see these examples here. See, based on the AI system, based on the kind of use case, it can change. For example, let's say you are basically now in a self-driving car. Assume that you are in an autonomous car. The probability of having that particular car to failure is low because obviously it's trained, it's tested properly and all. But if it happens, if the impact happens, it can cause a catastrophic damage, right? That means it will increase the risk, obviously. That means the AI risk is something which is unpredictable, or it changes every day. You got the point, team. This literally changes every day. Why? Because let me tell you. So, for example, let's say when you basically go for a AI system, okay, it's not something regarding just the AI system. It's regarding how much magnitude of the impact it can cause. See, normally whenever I talk about the word called as risk is equal to likelihood into impact. But here I want to use the word called as magnitude of the harm. Why? Because let me tell you, this word I'm taking some time for this for a reason. So normally we say risk is equal to probability of occurrence into impact on the business. Impact on the business, right? But AI risk is equal to probability of occurrence or likelihood of occurrence into magnitude of the harm. Why? Because this is not just for the organization, this is for the people, this is for the society, this is for the environment, multiple things like that. So AI at the same time is being beneficial for us, but it's bringing a much more risk, which is ever increasing or ever changing, which is not there in a normal scenario. That's the reason why I'm saying AI risk is something which needs to have a careful consideration. I will just finish one more thing and then I'll go to the next slide, team. See, why this is basically in demand. Let me tell you. If you go to any job roles, if you go to any AI job roles, you should be aware of this AI risk, because this is something which equally affects every single person, the person inside the company, the person outside the company, your developers, your employees, your customers, anyone who basically have directly or indirectly interacting with AI may have this risk affected. So that's the reason why you have to make sure that this is properly identified and properly proactively mitigated. AI risk is dynamic. See, AI risk is completely dynamic. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. Okay, why the AI risk is completely dynamic, team? What is the reason why AI risk dynamic? See, for example, now you ask. Let's say we have you have an AI tool. You ask a question. Okay, and it gives you an answer. So tomorrow, if you ask the same question again, it will give you a different answer. Maybe after tomorrow, you ask it again, it will give you a different answer. That means in AI, you can't have things in a determined way. You have to always, ride on that what we can say, that probabilistic things like that. Okay, I'm going to quickly discuss about some risk which are most important for you to understand. In fact, these are something which is very important for us. I will give you a complete practical risk assessment process in next few minutes. Don't worry. This is just a starting. Okay, we are just going a bit deeper and understanding why AI risk is something which cannot be managed like a traditional risk. Okay, see, I will tell you, as we discussed before, if you go for a classical IT risk management, we are actually focusing on threats like data breaches, the malware, or downtime, unauthorized access, right? The system will either work or fail, nothing more, right? The system will work or fail, and the failure is mostly technical, or the harm which is basically happening is within the organization, right? But if I go to a AI, the whole thing changes. I will give you an example here. The first one is called as a decision harm. What is the decision harm, team? So the AI is something which is basically making decisions, right? At least influencing decisions. That means what? So if a AI system rejects a loan application, or if the AI system denies an insurance to a person, or if an AI system flags a legitimate transaction as a fraudulent transaction, or if the AI system reject your resume for a job, or if the AI system suggests a wrong medical guidance, the harm is not a technical failure, right? Is it just technical failure? If this happens, what is the impact? It is directly affecting people, right? That means when these kind of AI tools are in used more and more, the harm also will increase. See, in any of these examples I told you, do you primarily think about technical issue? No, right? This is not technical failure. You are directly considering the challenges of people, right? So if the AI makes an incorrect decision or inaccurate decision, that is directly affecting people. Okay. See, there is a website I would recommend to everyone, team, which is called as a AI incident database. Okay, you will love it. I will tell you the reason. There is a website called as AI incident database. I will show you, because this website will show you the latest incidents based of AI. Okay, so if I just go through this, I'll show you an example. See, AI tools fail to sufficiently predict COVID patients, some potentially harmful. That means what? So there was a company who was using AI tools for predicting COVID for people, and basically what happened? Just because that they were not, the tool misclassified people. The patients didn't get the proper care. The patients were ignored, or the symptoms were ignored. And is it just the patients only? Obviously, if there is no COVID, doctors also will not be take any safety rate. So what happens there? Doctors also is affected. So that means this is an AI failure, right? Do you think it's a very simple thing? No, right? Like this, you can find thousands of incidents per day, thousands of incidents per day. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that that is the first thing, decision harm. Okay, the second thing is basically which we call as a behavioral unpredictability. That means, see, when you go for an AI model, especially this large language models and things like that, okay, they don't have a deterministic behavior, they don't have a static behavior, right? So the same input today will produce a different output today and tomorrow, right? So over a period of time, things obviously can change. That's a problem. Okay, things can simply change. So the first point is that when you basically go for something called as a AI, behavior is something which is always dynamic. Then we have something called as a embedded bias. What is an embedded bias, team? Now I'll give an example. So this is a very common example that you may have heard in many AI discussions and all. Okay, so just think about that. If I let's say if there's an AI tool here, we have an AI tool here. Okay, so I'm giving some data to the AI tool for training. I'm training the AI tool with some data. Okay, now let's take an example of Amazon. So Amazon was having a hiring tool, hiring AI. Okay, a hiring AI tool where they used last, let's say example, last 10 years of data, okay, to train the people or train, sorry, to train the AI tools to sort the resumes. Okay, now this AI tool was completely discriminating women candidates. Got the point, team? So there was an AI tool which was trained on last 10 years of hiring data, was completely discriminating women candidates, female candidates. Whenever there is a female candidate is sending a resume, it's immediately rejecting it or something. It's flagging it as the low, means never the high priority. So after they have realized this issue has happened, okay, this is technically this is not an AI failure. I repeat the point, team. Technically it's not an AI failure. Let me tell you the reason. So when you trace back to this last 10 years of data, do you know what happened? They realized that almost 70% people hired on the last 10 years was male candidates, and there was only 30% people who was hired as a female candidate from the means as a female. So what basically happened was, when we gave this thing to AI, okay, there was two issues. One is there was no review of this particular data. The second thing was, okay, the second thing was, when they got 70% male candidate data, AI thought that whenever we say the word leadership, CEO, top management, and all this kind of stuff, the AI assumed that that's a word. The AI assumed that whenever we say the word called as a CEO, whenever we say the word called as a top roles and all, it's always the male candidates. So what I'm saying is that, team, now at this particular point of time, it realized that, so the reason why this failure was because of the training data. Okay, now let's trace back to the reason for it. Let's take back to the reason for this. Reason number one, okay, there should be a proper representativeness in training data. Representativeness in training data. That means there should be a equal amount of male and female candidates. Okay. Reason number two. See, the reason why you're asking a question that, Krish, why why we call it as an intelligent system? My answer is that, team. The thing is that you are assuming AI as another human who have the same skills as you. No, it is just a tool. It's not a human who basically sits there and talk to you and basically understand your emotions and all. No, it is just a tool. That means this is the major reason. The second reason was lack of a major principle called as data minimization. Data minimization. What is this data minimization principle, team? If you give the AI something, it will learn from that. If you give whatever you give to AI, it will learn from that. That means When they took this resume data from this particular last 10 years, why don't they remove any unwanted things? Why can't they just keep the qualification, experience, and all these things? Why do they have put the gender there? Why do they have put the pin code there or zip code there? Why do they have put the like a women's college name, men's college name, like those kind of things like that? This is called as proxy variables. Why do you put these kind of additional things? See, you give something, AI will learn from that. You can't say that my AI should learn only what I feel. No, that is not you there. That is just an AI tool. Whatever you give, it will learn. So if you specifically say this is a female resume, this is a male resume, it will learn it. See, technically it don't know it's a male or female. It feels like those resumes which have these parameters or these pointers are good and these are bad. In that perspective, they will think it like that. Okay. So technically two people who have the same skill set, same experience, same background will have this issue if I add this unwanted things there. Okay, so first of all, the lack of representativeness. The second was they were not following the principle of data minimization. Third most important thing is that there was no human oversight. I would say there was lack of governance. I would say so. There was a bias which was there in that means in maybe in that company for last 10 years. This is not intentional. Maybe like accidentally or somehow there was a bias which was there throughout the company for last 10 years, and at a point of time when this particular issue happened, AI amplified it. I always say this word to everyone: AI never creates a bias. AI is not a human to always bias people. AI never creates a bias. AI always amplifies it. I repeat, AI don't create bias or this kind of things. AI always amplifies. So if you have a proper governance who are looking after this data, ensuring that we are reviewing the data properly, removing any kind of direct or indirect identifiers, making sure the data is properly representing the entire population properly, removing any unwanted things and specifically selecting only those pointers for training, then this issue may not have happened there. Now you may feel, Krish, Amazon is a large company. How can they miss all these things? See, regardless of it's a large company or small company, this is a possible thing. This can happen because at some point, if you miss something, it will happen for sure. So we have to continuously improve the process. That's the only way. So that's the next challenge, team. The bias which are basically embedded in the society, embedded in the mindset, embedded in the thought process, historical data, and multiple other factors obviously will travel to the AI, and AI unknowingly amplify it for sure. No doubt in that. And to make it simple, team, technically speaking, AI is not something which is the major reason for most of the failures. It is actually the data which we are providing, the way we are training, the way we are optimizing, and multiple things is what actually the primary cause of most of the failures. Okay. Then indirect discrimination. What is this indirect discrimination? See, means I have seen people ask me this question actually. So, Krish, I have removed this. Okay, gender, race, religion, caste. I have removed all these factors. Then still why the AI is biasing, or still why this issue is happening? See, there is something called as a indirect identifiers or indirect discrimination. I will tell you. So I don't, let's say for, it means team this, I'm just giving an example here. So don't feel it personal. I'm just giving an example here for your understanding because this is the issues happened before. That's why I'm telling you. See, for example, let's say if I'm saying the word male candidate and female candidate. Okay, I remove this. I remove this. Okay. But the resume says that the person studied in all India Men's College or All India Women's College, or the person took 10 months leave exactly for maternity leave. So that means what? These are not direct. These are indirect proxy variables, which is used, which the AI will understand, and obviously AI will think it like that. I will give you another thing. So for example, let's say if you put the pin code, right? In India we call as pin code, in other countries we call a zip code, right? This factor can be a matter of discrimination. You know that, because when I basically have a pin code there, based on that AI, I feel like, okay, these people from these pin codes are commonly rejected because there is a risk. So what AI will do, if anyone who is applying for some loans or something from this particular pin code or zip code, they will be rejected. Why? Because AI learns from this indirect factors. Okay, it is just an it's AI, it's not human, right? Then the next thing is the major challenge now everyone is facing: autonomy escalation. Okay, in fact, I will tell you in team, like since something which I feel that which was expected for a long time, even I'm seeing it now. I'm sure you have heard about this case for a long time. That is, let's say, many companies are like dropping off people uh, because AI is there. Layoffs are happening, right? Many companies are having layoffs, right? At least a few of you are victim of means victim of that as well. Many companies are simply laying off people just because AI is going to replace. Okay. Do you know what is a major problem there? So there is a word called as automation bias. That means if AI says something, it's right. If AI do something, it's right. People develop the mindset that if AI is doing something, if AI is saying something, it's right. Recently, very interesting things happened, that somebody filed a complaint in the court of law that the AI is actually not considering that person's feelings, and it's continuously harassing that person, or basically not considering that person's emotions. Simple. Just think about that. Because people believe that AI is something which blindly trust. So if the companies are trying to completely offload it to AI, that means for approvals, for recommendations, for RPA, for everything, if I am completely using AI for everything, the human intervention decreases. And the more autonomy you are giving to the system, the more systemic impact it can cause, right? That's a very serious challenge, right? So now companies are realizing it. If you have seen the latest trends, many companies are saying that the cost of AI tools is outburning the cost of the expected benefit from AI. That means if if ChatGPT is basically, let's say as example, ChatGPT is basically giving an output worth $1. Okay, they are spending $3 for that subscription, because many companies have stopped using AI tools now just because of this. So I'm trying to say that AI is the more dependency you have towards AI, the more chance it can basically mess up things, right? And finally, human oversight failure. Obviously, when you have something which is high risk and something, it's very important to have a human visibility, human oversight, because AI is not something which should be a final decision maker. AI should be just something which can give you suggestions, which can assist you in your job. It's not something to replace your critical jobs and all. Okay, in that perspective, that's basically the key challenges or key risk when talking about the AI risk. Is it clear, team? Any queries we have in this? Anyone? Okay. Now, team, the next one is that, see, I'm just giving you the ideas here. Okay. See how when basically AI cause a harm. You remember the word AI, risk of AI is equal to the probability of occurrence or likelihood of occurrence into magnitude of the harm, not impact. Don't say the word impact here, like a normal risk. Here we say the word magnitude of harm, how depth the harm can go, not just the impact. That word will, like, don't give the actual idea. Okay, how deep it can basically cause the impact, that's what we call as the magnitude. Okay. Okay, so there is a lot more challenges we have, like, just if you read this, you will understand this, team. So, like, what is the first most important thing to understand? Okay, when we say the word called as individual harm, okay, individual harm means what? Which is something directly affecting the people, right? Okay, which is directly affecting people. Anything which directly or personally or financially or psychologically affecting people, that's individual harm, right? So for example, let's say if there is a person who basically got the loan rejected, okay, that causes a financial impact, that causes a psychological impact, right? So all these things are having serious impact there, right? When we say impact, it's not just money. It's or not just in terms of money, right? It's actually much more than money. It's not just money. It's much more than money. Okay, like that. Okay. The next thing is that critically. Okay. So the organization's harm is basically the most criticality of the things which we have to keep in mind. Okay. That means, so when you say organization harm, so now you basically your business make a mistake. Okay. Who will you, okay, can we quantify this magnitude? Kanjar, yes, we can quantify, but based on the type of harm specifically, like that. Okay. But certain things we cannot. Like for example, let's say psychological harm is something which we cannot quantify. Okay. Or some financial harm we can quantify sometimes, but psychological harm or certain other things like that, like medical diagnosis issues, misdiagnosis, and these kind of things cannot be done. For example, a fraud transaction we can quantify, like that. Others we cannot. AI introduces both. In fact, there is more number of harms which is not able to quantify if you go for AI, like that. Okay. The next one is called as what we call as a organizational harm. When we say the word called as organizational harm, okay, see, when something goes wrong, what happens there? Okay, it is something which affects the organization in terms of, like, for example, let's say the legal authorities are basically, filing a lawsuit against you, or maybe the company have a less brand value. So tomorrow, let's say if I'm saying that this product is having a lot of chemicals, what happens? People stop buying that. When people stop buying that, their brand value will reduce, right? So that is something which affects the organizational level. Then regulatory means that it can cause fines and all these things, right? Like that. So for example, let's say if there is a company who basically deploys a banned or prohibited AI systems in the European market, obviously they have to pay massive penalties. They will be removed from the European market, right? Like the same way, over a period of time, it can basically create a lot of misinformation spread, systemic discrimination. So what is this misinformation spread, team? I'll give an example. So for example, I create a deep fake video. Okay, simple. I create a deep fake video. Let's say example. I create a video, a deep fake video of a political senior political person, and just because of that video, people believe it's a real one. And what happens? And what happens that people simply, like, don't elect him for his next election. What happens there? That ruins the career, right? That makes wrong people in the politics, right? That affects the entire society, right? So like that, all these things are basically something which can seriously impact it. This is not just something which is affecting a person. It can affect a person, a group, a organization, a society, and in many ways. Okay, like that. So just to give you a comparison, team, just to give you a comparison between these two things. Okay, there are two words we have. One is what we call as a traditional IT risk, and one is what we call as a AI risk. Okay, see, I just want to walk you through this because you're already aware of this. Okay, the first is basically deterministic versus probabilistic. So if you basically go for a IT infrastructure, it is deterministic. Like for example, if I'm telling you a firewall is either allowing or blocking a traffic, or we are writing a test case for a particular application. So what is that? This is fine. You know that it's working or not, right? If I'm asking you, team, is the firewall working? Is it blocking the traffic? Or is this particular test case sufficient? You can tell me clearly, right? But if you go for AI, you can't always predict what is going to happen. It is completely probabilistic. Its behavior is completely depending on the training data. And obviously, as a period of time, when you keep on interacting with the AI tool, the model will start giving more and more new things, which basically becomes uncertain, which is not something same from the last name what they have given. I'll give you a simple example, team. Now I have an AI tool which was trained before this COVID pandemic. Assume, okay, we have an AI system which was trained before the COVID pandemic. Now, after the COVID pandemic, many things changed. The way that people purchase things, the way that people actually commute, the way that people spend, the things, or the focus of people, everything changed, right? In that perspective, can you basically expect, okay, Can you basically expect that AI will basically, that AI tool work as expected? No, right? So what I'm trying to say is that when you basically go for an AI tool, okay, when you basically go for an AI tool, the biggest challenge we are having is that we can't assume how, or we can't predict, or we can't assume how it basically going to behave. Then, then we have something called as a obviously the logic. See, when you say logic, there is a transparent logic and opaque models. That means what? If an AI is basically making a decision, how deeper we can do that? See, if it's a very simple AI tool, it's fine. Like we have, if I go for a decision tree or things like it's fine. But if you go for a modern AI tools, which is more advanced deep learning models and all, when you basically ask a query, okay, when there is an input to the AI, we give an input, okay, the AI tool will basically process it and give you an output. So, what was the reason why that output happened? How do I get a transparency? How do I get a explainability? That's a challenge, right? Because the logic is not so transparent. Then the next thing is that this is the most interesting thing. Team, can I blame AI for something going wrong? That's a very important question. Can I blame or file a complaint against an AI? So we can't blame AI, right? That means there should be a person who is responsible. See, I am the user. I use ChatGPT. So tomorrow if something goes wrong, can you blame me? No, right? That means when AI tool makes a mistake, doesn't mean that you can always like you can basically like go and blame the AI tool or one single person maybe, because AI is a combination project. You may have multiple project persons involved in the project, not one single person. So it's a mandatory thing in AI to create a RACI metrics. It's a very important thing, team. The moment you start an AI project, it's very important. The first thing is very important is to have a RACI metrics. What is RACI? Responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. You should basically have a RACI metrics defined. That's a very, very important thing. Okay. Obviously, if you go for normal things, it's just technical failure. But if I go for AI, it's more than technical failure. It's a serious societal issue. It's something which is not affecting the one person. It's basically affecting the society as well, right? In that way. See, there is a generic rule which is basically there. When you talk about the AI, it is a mandatory thing that, listen to me very clearly, it's a mandatory thing that when talking about AI, it's very important for you to have a AI literacy for everyone. When you basically go for an organization, as per the EU AI Act, as per Article 5, I guess, you should basically have a mandatory training for or mandatory AI literacy for everyone. Not in the same way, it's different. Like, for example, I can say that it is just like it's different for different people in that way. Okay, now why? Because only if they know that AI is just a tool and many multiple factors like that, then only we can basically assume or expect people to behave in that way. Second thing is that the level of risk a person should know, or the level of risk which a person should understand, is based on what level of interaction he's having with AI, what purpose he's using AI for, and multiple things like that. But that's the reason why we are going to perform, or we are going to perform a risk assessment today. And when we identify a risk, what we will do? We'll put the control. I will give you a simple example there. Can you simply teach every single employee the detailed AI risk and the mitigation mechanisms and all? Is it possible? Can you teach every employee the detailed thing? No, right? So what you will do? You put the control. So I'll give a simple example. Let's say there is a developer in the company. Okay, a developer in the company. This developer is now using AI for coding. We call it as vibe coding, right? AI, the developer is using AI for coding. You can't blame because that's a productivity thing, right? But what if this guy copy and paste a critical company data or a company's sensitive code to the AI tool? It's not, we cannot cancel it. It will learn immediately. So what we will do there? We have to put a control. First of all, obviously, we have to give a training to them, train them that it should not be done. We should basically put the policies there and all, but we should basically have an enforcement. That means we have to basically have a company interface. I'm giving an example use case. We can basically put a company interface, and through the company interface, he can basically interact with the AI. So what happens if he is trying to put any kind of a sensitive data? this particular interface will block the particular request for the user, like that, in that way, like that. But somehow we have to put the controls there. We can't basically make everyone aware of everything and make sure that they will do it as the way we are expecting. So what we will do, we have to make sure that we put the proper controls there. A lot of things are there. In fact, see, many companies develop tools, or there are multiple tools. So I can share your list, or I can help you with that also. Just message me on LinkedIn, I can help you there for sure. Okay, now open source tools are also there, but again we have to train it's also an AI interface in front, so obviously we have to have some efforts there, but it's possible, it's there. Okay, because the reason is because when you talk about the AI team, we can't avoid using AI. The real fact is that after discussing all these things, if you feel, Krish, let's ditch AI, let's not use AI. No, we can't do that. We have to use AI for sure. Okay. The reason is because if I don't use AI, if I don't use AI, obviously it's basically going to affect our business productivity. Okay. So that's the reason why we have to make sure that these are properly addressed. Okay, like that. Okay, now team, let's do one thing. Okay, so we basically, there is a lot of risk we have in AI, like dependency on data. AI is as good as data which is trained on, and the model. The problem is that when you basically go for the modern AI tools, the biggest challenge we are having is that we don't know how the AI is making the decisions, right? We are not aware of how the AI is making the decisions, and just because that we are not aware of how AI is making the decisions, that brings the challenge even more complicated, right? Like this. So sorry. So these are some things which I want to discuss, team. Now I'm going to talk about one more thing, then we'll talk about a practical risk assessment. So if you talk about the AI, these are the common AI risks which we are having. Already we discussed. Okay, so when you basically go for an AI, as we discussed, AI creates a lot of risk. In fact, this risk will keep on increasing only, it will never decrease, it will keep on increasing only. We have several AI risks there which can possibly come, which can possibly be there. Okay, okay, now let's do one thing, team. Just go through this once and I'll give you an example. I'll give you a practical risk assessment. First, you go through this team once, and then I'll give you a practical risk assessment examples and how it works. We will learn it in detail today. Next 30 45 minutes to 1 hour, you're going to learn that in detail. Okay, for sure. When an organization decide to build an app using AI, will it ever pass? See, it should. See, there is no choice. You can't say that there is a choice. That means what? We can't simply say that an AI tool will. You can't ask me like, Krish, will it pass or not? The answer is that it should pass. There's no option there. If you want that AI to be there in the company, it should pass. That's a fact. Like, we can't simply say that, okay, just because it's an AI, it will not pass. No, you have to basically make sure it passes the thing. Okay. Now, team, we are going to discuss about, okay, the practical AI risk assessment process, how this can be done. Okay. Okay. I'm going to talk about the practical risk assessment process, how this can practically impact or how this can practically work. Okay. Not much more, just a very I'm just discussing it in a very practical way, trying to make it as much as simple as possible. So make sure if you have some doubts, you can raise your hands or ask your, okay, like that. So team, I'm going to give you a model which is directly aligned with the NIST AI RMF. Okay, because when talking about this particular use case, I'm going to discuss this with the complete NIST AI RMF mapping. Okay, so first of all, when talking about the AI, okay, when talking about the AI, so we have discussed till now how the AI risk is and why it behaves differently, and how it is happening and all. Now we are going to discuss about how actually we can assess or manage the AI risk in practice. Okay, so first of all, this is the steps I want to discuss. Okay, so we'll start with defining the AI boundary. Don't worry, I'll explain this in detail. But as of now, we are going to discuss about how to define the system boundary. because we, before we basically mitigate things or identify things, we should know what is the things we are going to do, right? Then we have to basically classify it. Classify means that what is the sensitivity level, how it is basically going to affect. Then then we are basically going to understand the possible risk which can happen, how much it can basically cause an impact, how much likelihood is which can happen. This is the magnitude, this is the likelihood. Then how to basically mitigate the risk. Then how to ensure that who is responsible for it, how to continuously monitor risk. We are going to discuss it through 8 complete steps. I will show you some templates which can basically give you more clarity. Okay. So first of all, team, we are going to start with the step 1, which is called as define the AI system boundary. Define the AI system boundary. See, when we say define the AI system boundary, it means that, see, every AI risk assessment starts here. Okay, before we talk about this bias, drift, scoring, mitigation, things like that, you should understand this thing most importantly. Okay, let me tell you the reason. Let me tell you the reason, clear reason for this. Like, don't feel I'm just simply wasting your time. You should clearly understand why we are doing this. Okay, so when you basically go for a AI, you should know that what we are assessing. In fact, I would say that this is the most important step, or this is basic. If you miss this, then obviously things can go messy. That means what, in real organizations, what we do is that we have to make sure that we have a clear visibility of the entire AI system. We have to have a clear visibility over the entire AI system. Now, I use a word called as AI system, right? What is an AI system? It's the AI model, the data, and other things which is working with the AI. So that entire AI ecosystem is what we call as a AI system. Okay. So you should basically have a clarity regarding, in when you talk about the AI risk assessment, first have a clear understanding or clarity regarding what you are assessing. What is the clear boundary you're having? Okay. I know it's confusing. Don't worry. I will show you a real document. I'm going to show you a document. So when you basically define this AI system boundary, okay, you should basically have these things. But I'll tell you what is this with the document. That's more easy. Let me know once you can see this, team. It's a simple document we have. It's a like document which is having some information here. Not real actually. So if you see this document, this is the outcome of this particular step we are discussing. That means when we talk about the AI, okay, when we talk about the AI, okay, first of all, we should have a clear visibility regarding the AI system boundary. That means we should capture multiple things. I'll tell you this first, then I'll show you the document. That's more easy. So first of all, you should know the business objective. What is business objective, team? Let me tell you. When talking about can I say that AI is not the destination? AI is just a way to achieve something. I'm not sure how many people understood that word, but I'm telling you, AI is not a destination. AI is just a way to achieve something. I want a person to basically have a to respond to customer calls. Okay, I want a person to respond to the customer calls. So when I basically want a person to respond to the customer calls, instead of a person, I'm using AI there. Or let's say, for example, I want to make sure that whenever there is a transaction happening, let's say you're part of a bank now. Okay, you're part of a bank, and whenever there is a transactions happening, I just want to make sure that, okay, there is an AI tool which can basically, or there is a mechanism there which can help me to identify which one is a fraudulent transaction and which one is a legitimate transaction without without delay. So AI is basically a way to achieve that, right? That means AI is not the solution, it's just a tool. Okay, so understand why we are basically going for the AI. Okay, in the risk assessment, first thing is that understand why does the AI system exist. Please don't feel I'm saying theory here. I will show you the document and give you a clarity. But before that, so like I'll give an example. So is this AI system for approving loans or screening the candidate resumes or generating some marketing content or providing support for medical decisions? So the business objective determines the impact. So I'll give you an example, team. If I'm using a chatbot, AI-based chatbot for answering a very frequently asked questions, is it a high risk AI system? No, right? If I use a chatbot for giving you decisions or helping you deciding the stocks to buy or for a medical condition, etc., is it critical or non-critical? First one, the first use case also chatbot, second also chatbot. See, one single word you gave me now: impact, impact, magnitude, right? Magnitude, the magnitude of the harm. If a chatbot is answering a FAQ and if they basically make a mistake, fine, max to max. So one customer may slightly complain, but does not cause a harm to him. But at the same time, if I use a chatbot for predicting the stock market or maybe like a medical decision, that's going to have a high impact. So the objective is something which determines the impact primarily. You got the point, team. Then, okay, risk severity begins the business purpose. Okay, so it is technically based on what? It is technically based. Sorry. So, team, I'm saying that when you basically talk about the word called as input and output source, what happens that input means what data I'm giving to the AI. Okay, and output means what is the thing that AI tool is giving me, right? Then source of data. Just think about the team. Source of data is very important. It means we call it as data inventory. I'll give you multiple perspective there. Just think about that. You have a lot of tools in your mobile phone, Google Photos, then Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, then many other applications. What will you feel when you identify that every single picture, every single video, every single chat of you is used to train the AI models or is used by somebody? Is it just something you'll ignore? Are you sure? Will you simply ignore that? Will you be fine with that? That is what currently happening, that's what currently happening. When there's a lot of applications and a lot of things in your mobile phone which is taking your data, which is using it for training the AI tools. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that when you talk about the AI, okay, that's a very important point we have to understand. Okay, data is, and the second thing is the data with the proper consent. If you train the AI tool with the data, and if the data is taken from a person without proper consent, that's against the GDPR law. The second thing is that if there is someone who basically use the data, and if that something happens, it's going to affect the organization, the person, and multiple people, right? So there should be a clear inventory regarding the data. It's a very important thing. The next is basically the type of model. It's a more technical thing. Like, what is the purpose of the model? Is it a supervised model, unsupervised model, language model? What is the purpose? That's a model type. In fact, you may feel, Krish, why do I learn about this? It is purely the technical thing. I agree, but still there is a problem. When you go for auditing, right? When you go for auditing based on this EUAA Act and all, they will ask you one question: why you have selected this model? If you want to comply with 41 to 2001, or if you want to comply with some laws and regulations, they will ask you, why did you basically go for IS this particular model? You should have a document which clearly mentions about why did you particularly select a model. The next thing is the team. Next thing is that we have something called as a automation level. What is automation level, team? Automation level means that how is it just a recommendation thing, or is it something which is going to approve something right away? Is it just for recommendation, or is it something which is basically going to approve something right away? Okay, because that affects the harm, right? That deepens the harm. That basically deepens the harm. The next thing is that we have something called as a human oversight. What level a person is basically having a visibility towards it? Like, am I just simply directly using it, or do we have a person, who is just approving it, or just like that? Then where we are deploying it, is it on a cloud or on premises? Everything. Who is affected? What people? Is it customers? Is it employees? Is it job applications or job applicants? Is it patients? Is it investors? Who is affected? So all these things should be having a clarity. That's the reason why, team, we will make a document here called as, okay, we'll make a document here called as a AI system boundary document or profile document. I'll show you that. See this, team. This document is very important. Okay, this is the first document which we create before performing any risk assessment. Okay, this is a document which we create before performing any AI risk assessment. Okay, so if you see this document, the first section is basically what we call as a document control. What is this IT team? So this is basically where the document owner is defined and all these things. Now, why do I basically have these things important for me? I will tell you the reason why these two information is important, because in the auditing perspective, they will ask you who is accountable. See, I will give you a simple question. Who is accountable if a regulator is asking for an evidence about this AI system? See, there should be like, see, someone must own this document, right? Someone must own the AI system, right? So if I should know that for this particular AI here called as credit sense, for this AI called as credit sense, who is responsible there? Is it the head of AI? Is it the CTO? Like, there should be someone who is responsible, right? So putting this line on the first page will give us the clarity on who is responsible right away. Is it clear? Yeah, Harris, go ahead. Ask it out. Okay. So if I basically go for a third-party AI tool, for example, now I am using ChatGPT or any kind of third-party AI tool, it's means there is no option there. We have to know. And how do we know that? That's why we have a document called as a model card and system card. You can basically ask that particular third party vendor for a document based on what data it's trained. Have you done the impact
Yeah.
assessment? So we
Okay.
have to basically ask them for a model card and system card. Plus, we can also ask them something like a data lineage records and multiple things like that, which gives us a
Yeah.
clarity like that. Now, Tim, that's basically the first thing. Okay, what responsibility I want to see? Obviously, we have to have someone as a owner there. This is the person who has to make sure that this document is up to date. That means I'm not saying that this person has to do it. There should be multiple people doing it, but ensure that this document is up to date is the responsibility of this document owner. And the AI system is owned by this particular person. Tomorrow, if something goes wrong, he is accountable or he is responsible there in that way. Okay, like that. Then if I scroll down to this document team, you can see that there is something called as a objective. So this is one of the most important section. See, the AI system exists for something, right? Like credit scoring or loan approval or what is that? Reduced decision time. See, right? So what happens if the AI system makes a mistake? Possible, right? If the AI system makes a mistake, it can basically have a wrong loan approval, wrong loan rejection, financial loss, right? Like that. So you should clearly understand what is the purpose of the particular AI tool. You should clearly mention the clear purpose of the AI tool. If you don't mention the clear purpose of the AI tool, that can create a lot of problem. Okay, I repeat, if you don't mention the clear purpose of the AI tool, that can make things even more complicated. Why? Because whenever I basically go for an AI, okay, whenever I basically go for an AI, it's very important for us to ensure that, okay, it's very important to ensure that we have a clarity regarding the use case or a challenge of this particular model. So the first thing for that is always identifying the business function. Okay. Then, and team, one more thing is there. Never assess an AI model without understanding why does this AI tool exist. Because we are not going behind AI. We are going behind a solution we need. And AI is just a way for doing that. That's the best definition I can give you. Okay. Then we have this technical thing. Okay, technical is basically something, what kind of model, what is the input we are giving. So what data we are giving as an input. The system is using the income data. If you see this, the system is using the income data, The system is using the employment status. The system is using the credit score. Multiple things, right? That means if the input data is wrong, obviously AI won't be able to give you the proper answer, or AI will reject the applications, right? Like that. Okay. So the AI tool can basically approve or reject or decline the decision. That means what? That means it may cause harm if there is no person who is approving, right? What is the training data? What data we use to train the AI? Very important team. What data which we used for training? But the question is that, see, they are saying that they used last 5 years of historical loan application. Simple. They're using last 5 years of historical loan application. If they're using last 5 years of historical loan application data, what if that historical data was biased? Obviously, that is a garbage. That data is in, AI will basically learn from that, right? So like this team, what third party, like the question we asked before, if I scroll down, okay, what third party, so what third party risk is basically there? See, I'm using some multiple third party tools here. What third party risk exists here? So like this, we have multiple challenges which we will define this document. This document is one of the most important things where we start. I repeat, when you basically start the AI process, this document is basically very, very important for us to understand. So now that's basically the step one of this whole process team. Now, once we understand the purpose and all these factors here, okay, we are moving on to the step two where we classify the risk. Okay, this is where we are going to classify the risk. So in the first step, what we have done, first step, we basically profile the AI system there. What are the AI systems we have? In the step two, we are going to classify. Okay, we are going to classify. So now that we understand what are the AI systems we have, we should understand what are the existent risk which is there. Okay, that means what are the risk which do exist there. Okay, see, basically, why do I classify the risk? I will tell you. When you basically go for an AI, I can't basically consider all the risk the same way. I should be able to identify the risk and I should be able to make sure that I understand which one is sensitive or which one is critical and which one is not critical. Like that. See, if I'm simply using a AI tool for movie recommendation, simple. If I'm using an AI tool for a movie recommendation and if I'm using an AI tool for loan approval, both looks very similar, right? That both are AI. But movie recommendation have a different purpose. AI tool have the loan approval system have different purpose, right? The consequence is completely different, right? So the risk classification help us to discriminate. The risk classification help us to focus on the effort where it matters the most. Okay, I will show you a template here, team. I'll show you a template here for making this clear. This is a simple risk classification template. You can just go through this once. Okay, I'll show you that. So if you see this, okay, the first so basically now just see this whole section here. Okay, the first factor is basically what you can see that you have a name of a system, right? You name a system. So basically now, what are the AI systems we have in the company? We have multiple AI systems, and obviously it have what? It have a unique ID also. Okay, you have a unique ID also, but don't worry about the ID part. I'll tell you because many people get confused regarding this ID. Okay, so when talking about this particular, uh, you know, risk classification document, first thing to understand is that we are not identifying all the risks. We are trying to just understand what are the possible risks which can happen. See, just take an example. If I talk about this word called as credit sense, what is its purpose? It is basically for loans. Okay, so now the question is that when we say this is basically for loans, can this affect somebody's life? Can this basically affect somebody's life? Absolutely yes, right? Because if a loan approval system or is rejecting a person, it can affect the financial well-being, business growth, access to facilities, right? It can basically affect, right? That means it's what? It's a uh, something which is basically as per the annexure 3 part B. That means it is something which is classified as a high risk AI system as per the EU AA Act. It's something which is classified as a high risk AI system as per the EU AA Act. Now there is a question which can possibly ask. You answer the question, team. If this tool, I am saying that this tool called as Credit Sense is 100% accurate, would it still be a high risk AI? What do you say? If this application called as Credit Sense is 100% accurate, will this be a high risk AI tool? Will this be still in a high risk?
Yes.
Yes. Why? Because classification is based on use case, not accuracy, right? This is a very important thing. Regardless of what is the accuracy of this thing, at the end of the day, it's a high risk because it is something which is basically based on the category. It's based on the classification, right? Like that. Okay. So this is something which directly affects the access to financial services. If it's not done properly, it's going to significantly impact people. So obviously, what is that? This is going to this is basically having a serious impact. It's a higher risk AI tool, right? Then if I basically go to the next thing, see for example, let's say if I go for something called as a minimal risk, this is for helping the IT team to predict if there is something can go wrong. Not much serious, but there. It's a low risk. Like that, right? So I'm saying that like this you should make a document. This is basically not done by you only, okay? Like if you are a AI risk management expert or AI governance professional, don't feel, Krish, will I basically make everything by myself? No, this is something which is basically made by different people. Okay, in fact, like don't confuse that it's all these are done by you only. Okay, you have different people who basically do this. Like the AI model experts will basically do that. There is a like there is a compliance expert will have some sections there, so everyone will have their job role there. It's not something which is basically taken care by only one person in that way. Okay, like that. So now once we have identified whether a system is a high risk AI system or something like that, the next question is that why is it high risk? What specific risk makes it high risk? See, now you say that because this is basically it's a high risk AI system, what factors make it a high risk AI system? Okay, that is basically where you're going to go to the next step, which is called as AI identify risk scenarios. Identify AI risk scenarios. Team, are you able to follow, team? Is it clear till now? In a company, we have different AI tools we'll use, right? That way. For example, let's say
Okay.
if you
Okay.
go to this company, there is a one, two, three, like they are using total 12 AI tools, or they are planning to use, or they
Okay.
are
Okay.
using 12 AI tools. Fine, team. Now, once we basically classify the risk, okay, the next thing which we are going to do is basically what we call as a risk scenarios. So what does it mean by risk scenarios there? Let's take an example. In the step one, we discussed about what is an AI system, obviously, that boundary. Then we discuss about the risk classification scenario, how risky of the AI system. And step three is basically about what specifically can go wrong. We want to identify the potential failures, weakness, or anything which can cause the magnitude of harm. That's the whole thing, right? So here what we do is that, team, we are basically going to identify the practical risk which can happen for the AI. Okay. Now, I'm see, basically, I just want to make sure that what are the possible failure modes? What are the points where things can go wrong? Okay, in a simple words. Okay. So what I will do is that, team, I'll show you an example. See, in step two, we discussed about that current sense AI is a high risk AI system, right? And we said high risk, yeah, fine. But why it's a high risk, or what specific failures could make this system that much challenging? That is what we are going to discuss in this. So we make a document here in this particular point. We make a document called as a risk identification checklist. Okay, we make a document called as a risk identification checklist. Okay, so I'm going to put that for multiple things, but this document is specifically for that credit sense thing. See, that one single AI tool called as credit sense. Okay. See, what is our goal? We are trying to answer three questions. What can possibly, let's say, go wrong? Who should be or who could be affected? And what is the consequence? We are going to answer this particular questions here. So we have multiple risk, right? Data risk, model risk. We have multiple kind of risk. If I'm taking this example of data risk, see, I'm saying that has the training data been documented, the source, the dates, volume, and format? Do we have a proper data lineage and provenance? They are saying it's partial. Okay. They're saying that it's partial. That means not done fully. It's in progress or maybe something like that. Okay. That means what? Here it is partial means what? Partial means it is there, it is done up to an extent, not fully. It's partial. That means they have done this process up to this extent, but still we are missing something and it is still raised. So are data quality checks implemented and monitored in training and inference pipeline? Yes. How? Evidence. So every single thing you see here is basically very important. Okay. This document serves as a visibility point for many entities. If you basically go for an organization, this document serves as a visibility point for all the entities. Like if you want to see regarding the model and whether it's identified or not, this document gives a clarity. So this document, so what we are doing here is that team, this will basically will give us a clarity regarding, okay, this will give us a clarity regarding the possible AI risk which can basically happen, and I can basically understand the what kind of potential harms, what magnitude or what level of harms it can possibly happen. So once we basically identify the AI risk scenarios, okay, once we identify the AI risk scenarios, then what we'll do is that team, we are trying to move on to impact. Okay, once we identify the risk, we want to see how much it can damage, how much deep it can go, right? Okay. See, I'll give an example because I want to see the consequences, outcome of the risk, right? So what I'm saying is that, let's say, for example, when you basically go for an AI tool, okay, what is the severity level which can possibly happen? Is it just in a like, for example, even in a human perspective, it's like safety or uh, well-being or rights. If it's basically a business, it's basically financial loss or operational issues or customer trust. If it's a regulatory thing, it's basically something like penalties or compliance issues, reputational issues. So what level, what severity is the impact which is going to happen? What is the consequence? Okay. So that is for this team as a part of this process. Okay. Once we basically want to perform this risk assessment process, we create something called as a impact assessment document. Okay. We basically create something called as a impact assessment document. Okay, so this document will basically help us to understand the impact of the identified risk. Okay, we call it as a FMEA document. Okay, heard about that word, team? FMEA document, anyone? Okay, you will hear this word called as FMEA. So that's what we call as a FMEA document. Okay, so what this basically will do is that, team, when you basically go for this FMEA document, this basically gives a clarity regarding, okay, how serious or basically how deeper this impact can basically go. Okay, because in the previous step we identified the risk, right? But now we are going to understand how deep it can go. This is basically what we call as that NIST AI measure step. Okay, so we have a, obviously this is defined by the risk owner. We have a AIML expert who will take care of it. Like multiple teams will update this document. Okay, but we have to make sure that this FMEA is regularly updated. Okay, very important. So to make it simple, team, first of all, team, when talking about this FMEA document, okay, see, obviously for each particular component of the AI system, what is the function of that particular AI system? What is the failure modes? What is the what basically can fail? Okay, the thing is that what basically can fail? Okay, what failed? Like, is it like a bias training data? Is it like a model drift? Is it like a API failure? So technically, what fails? Okay, in what level it can fail? Okay. So for example, let's say if a particular model fails because of the bias training data, it can basically make qualified people rejected. That itself will basically tell you the consequence, right? Like that, in that way. Now, when you once we basically understand and identify the possible failures and failure modes, okay, understand the particular components and the failure modes, and what is the serious level of impact when it fails. Okay, see, this is the most important thing, and based on this, we can say that this is basically having the that serious level of impact. Okay, and this is the cause of failure, and this is the controls we can possibly put. These are suggestions actually. Okay, like that. This is the current controls, and what is the control we can perform, like that. Okay, in that way. So then, team, we basically go to something called as a scoring. So we now identified the probability of risk, the magnitude of risk, right? We understood the possible risk, the probability of risk, and the magnitude. If I get the probability and magnitude, what is the outcome? I can score the risk. This is where the most important and the most common document will come in picture, which is called as a risk register and all. Okay, we have the risk register. So in the initial step, if you remember, we talk about the system profile document, then we basically went to the risk classification, then we risk identification checklist, then we discuss about the FMEA stuff, right? Now we basically create the most important document which needs to regularly update, called as a risk register. See, FMEA is just a analysis. No, it's just analysis. If you go for risk register, it's basically a management worksheet. Like, risk register will tell you that what is critical, what is not critical, what is the status, who is the owner, is it currently fixing or it's still under risk, like that. Okay, having a proper risk is a very important thing. In fact, when you go to any standards, either AI or not AI, when talking about risk, it's very important to have a proper risk register document. See this, team. It's a very important thing to have a risk register like this. See, so what does it have? Okay, what does it have? So when I say we have a risk register, don't just randomly say that. What does this document technically have is something you should understand. Okay. So first of all, let me give an example here. Okay, let me give an idea here. So the first thing is that obviously you will have a risk ID. Okay, you will have a risk ID. Okay, obviously if you want to basically fix it, you should have an ID there, because there is a reason. If you don't have an ID, the problem is that because every risk should have a unique identifier. Like if I ask you, team, have you fixed that bias risk? If I'm simply asking you, have you fixed that bias risk? Then you will ask me, Krish, there is a multiple bias risk. Which one you're talking about? See, if I have a risk ID there, that remove that ambiguity, right? Like that. So that's one thing. Then obviously you should have a system ID. System ID means we are talking about which AI system. Sorry. If you have multiple AI systems in a company, we are talking about the which specific AI system. That's a system ID. Then what type of risk? Okay. Then most importantly, okay, what is the likelihood of the risk? What is the impact of the risk? What is the harm level of the risk? And what is the score? Okay, likelihood, impact, level of harm, in that way. Okay, you go through this team first once, just go through this once. We can basically there's a mostly what we do is that in an existing risk assessment process we add the AI as well. But to make it simple, when talking about risk register, in for AI use cases we always create a separate one. Why? Because AI have this like harm level also is a separate column, right? So because of it, sometimes so it is slightly different from the regular process, so we may create mostly a separate document for AI risk register. Okay, so we put the score level, so there is a score levels defined clearly. Then we put the priority of the risk, then what is the existing controls there, how effective is the controls. Team, what is a residual risk? So there is a two words we have to understand. One is what we call as an inherent risk, and one is what we call as a residual risk. Okay, inherent means that the risk which is already there before we put a control is called as a inherent risk. And after putting the control, what is the level of risk remaining is what we call as a residual risk. So residual risk will be less, right? Like that. So who is basically going to respond mitigate that? That's a owner, right? Within what date he or she has to do it? That's a target date like this. What control we have implemented and is it sufficient or not, or if not, then what we have to implement within when in that way like that. Whether it will be possible to, we should be Neha, it's mandatory because at the end of the day I should be able to have a clear visibility on all the possible risk, because those kind of things, especially for high risk AI systems, when you have a lot of risk which are unidentified, that is going to bring a serious impact. So make sure that we have visibility. This document should be continuously updated. Okay, whatever you do, you should continuously update it. For example, let's say if I say that I have a risk here which is basically 125 score, okay, and it's critical, okay, and currently it's partial. So we have to get back and ensure that within the date of target date of fixing it, the person responsible, is it closed or open, all these should be regularly updated, because the the risk register is the one of the central documents for tracking the entire process. So it's a very important thing, mandatory thing, okay, like that. No option there, it's a must have, I can say.
Krish, can this document contains all the MLOps
Okay.
cycle?
Actually, no, because when you basically go for risk register, if you try to basically track every actions you perform, that's too hectic. But what we do is that we just put the current status. Is it closed or open? Like, is it basically like closed or open or accepted? What is the thing we are doing there? Or who, like these things can be done, but exactly every single action we have to basically have a separate document there for that, like a lineage and all, like that. Like there is a lot of tools you can find, like if you go for this, IBM is basically having terms, some tools. Even there is multiple AI tools there which is basically like more aligned with this particular purpose also now. It's there. Okay,
Sure, sure. Thank you.
so find him. So then we basically, once we basically score the tool, this is basically a very important step, team, where we talk about the risk register and all. Then we basically go to something called as a mitigation. See, we have identified the risk, now we want to mitigate, we want to fix it. Okay, if I, this is what we call as a NIST manage, I can say. So when we say we want to mitigate, how do I mitigate? So that is basically why I have to make, I see there is a two things. Mostly this I'm going to, what I'm going to show you now is a part of risk register only. But in some, most of the case, some cases we basically put it separate. We call it as a risk treatment plan. That means any risk which we have identified, what we will do is that this is the AI system. This is the current AI, the score. So that's why I'm saying this is part of the register. We put a priority and what is the treatment recommended by the technical experts. So that means these are the actions which are recommended. Who will basically support this action? Because you cannot do that by yourself, right? So who will do that? The MLOps team will support that. The chief risk officer will support that. What is the budget for this particular purpose to audit and everything like that? Within what date we have to complete it? Like this, we have to basically make sure that we clearly put a document. This is part of the risk register. I'm showing separately only, but mostly the statement plan is sometimes another, just another tab in the risk register only. Okay, like that. So to make it simple, team, what we do is that, so in the previous step, we have defined the risk register, which talks about the whole risk which we have identified, the probability, the impact, and all these factors. Here we talk about the mitigation controls and what things we have planned and who is responsible for it. Okay, like that. So I'm just trying to make sure you get a very clear idea in a practical way, team. But still, we can't go in super detail because every single line, because obviously we only have 2 hours. That's why. But I hope you are getting the clarity, right? Don't worry. If you want, I can share those documents, team. These documents I can just like message me personally on LinkedIn. I can hopefully share you these documents as a Google Drive link. Okay. I have to modify some contents there before I can share. Don't worry. Let's see. Okay. Then we basically move on to the next step, team, which is called as document, assign ownership, and track actions. That means what, team? When we say document, assign ownership, and track actions, okay, it means that uh, see, when you basically say that we have a risk statement done, who is responsible for it or who is accountable for it within what time? So that is what we have seen the same document before. The same document which we have seen as a treatment document before will give that particular thing. Okay, like that. There's no need of having a separate document here. It's part of the same document only. Okay, like that. Just go through this team. It's something which is very simple. Uh, Means part of the same thing, but I have put it separately only. And this is basically a very important step, team. See, there, this is basically where you don't have to think about document. This is all these things are part of the risk register which we create, and we clearly mention about who has to take the action there and all. Now, in the AI, the problem, if you remember what we have discussed at a whole, what we have discussed is that when you basically go for the AI, okay, you can't actually have a complete, AI process and finish it. Because why? Because once you deploy the AI in production, okay, the things keep on changing. The use case changes, the type of customers changes, the purpose changes, things will keep on changing. So as the things keep on changing, what will happen there? As things keep on changing, what happens that you should be sometimes reassessing the AI system when we are releasing a new model version, when we are having a new AI use case, when the data source changes, when business goal changes, when loss changes. In multiple cases, what we have to do is that we have to actually redo this process again and again. You got the point, team? And that's what we call as a monitor and reassess the risk. Okay, like that. And that's the entire 8 steps which we basically have to perform as a part of the entire risk assessment. Okay. Okay. In what intervals we have to perform? One is obviously when a change happens. Second is basically like it depends on the company, like maybe it's 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, like that. Okay. So this is the whole 8 steps which we have discussed.